what is this business that you created?
Yeah, so so during the time of that and this, there was time, it's probably a year and a half, 2 years that we were trying all sorts of stuff. And again, marginal success on a lot of them, nothing like, and this was the one, we actually, this was I've done a lot of webinars and speaking from seminars and stuff like that, but this was right when auto webinars were coming out, and Mike Philson just did an auto webinar, a couple of people, and like, I feel like that was gonna be the future of things, and we're like, but what do we do the webinar on? We didn't know. And we flew out to Ryan Dice and Perry Belcher's office for like 2 days and picked their brains. We flew out to Rich Sheffrin's office for a day. And then on the flight home, I was just like sick to my stomach. I couldn't figure out like, what's the thing that we can serve people with the most right now? And on the flight home, I'm like, all the internet marketing stuff we do works for like internet marketers, but works way better like local business. Like a chiropractor implements like 2 things, it works. If a dentist does it, like, but I was like, but I don't want to be the guy going to dentist, but like we could be the backbone for that. What if we create an opportunity where people could come in, we train them and we connect them with the right tools and resources, and they could go and sell it to chiropractors and dentists. And that's what the idea was. We turned into an offer called .com Secrets Local. It was a $1,000 offer at the time, did the auto webinar for it, and it launched. And within 90 days, it done over $1 million, which covered payroll taxes, and then got us out of debt to the point now we could like stop and like dream again and like believe again and try to figure out what we really wanted to do.
.com Secrets Local to $1 million within 90 days. And how did you find the people who are going to sign up for this? A lot of us will have landing pages like this. We'll have these funnels. How did you get people in this funnel?
Yeah, and this was pre-Facebook too, so it's like it wasn't just like go turn Facebook ads on. But one thing that happened over the last, all the years prior to this, I'd met a lot of people. I've gone to a lot of events and get to know everybody. And everyone I met that, you meet a lot of people who have lists, they have followings, they have different things like that. I just got to know them really, really well. And in the past, I'd promoted a lot of their products, they'd promoted my products. And so we had this one and we did it first to my list and it did really well. And so I then called them like, hey, I did this webinar to my list. These were the numbers, it did awesome. Do you want to do it to your list as well? And they're like, oh, sure, that sounds like a great offer. And we did that list and they did good for them too. And we told the next person. And then if you have a webinar that's good, it's kind of like, it's like the speaking circuit, right? Like if you're good at speaking, then people will put you all over the place. Same thing, if you have a webinar that converts, then it's easy to get a lot of people to do it. And so as soon as that one worked and it converted well, then people lined up and we just kept doing it. And it was really quick to get that spot pretty quick.
I was on Facebook recently and I saw webinar slides from Russell Brunson. I went to a landing page, ClickFunnels page, and I signed up, and I'll talk about it maybe later, but I bought it, and I know other people did, and I've seen other people say Russell's webinar technique is the thing that just works. I'm wondering how you figured it out. How did you come across this, and how did you build it and make it work?
Yeah, so rewind back probably 10 years prior to this. It was when I was first learning this whole business. And I went to my very first internet marketing seminar ever. It was Armin Morin's big seminar. Did you ever go to a big seminar? Anyway, I went to it and I had no idea what to expect. I thought it was going to be like, and I showed my laptop and I was going to I thought we were a bunch of geeks going to do computer stuff. And the first person got on stage and they started speaking. And at the end of it, he sold like a $2,000 thing. I'd never seen this before. And I saw people jumping up and running to the back of the room to buy it. And I'm like this little 23-year-old kid. And I was counting the people in the back of the room doing the math. I'm like, doing the math. I was like, that guy made like $60,000 in an hour. And next guy gets up, he does his presentation. And I watched this for 3 days. And I was like, I'm super shy and introverted, but that skill is worth learning. If someone can walk on a stage and make $100,000 an hour, I need to learn how to do that. And so I started that, and it was really bad for the first, probably 8 or 9 months. I tried to do it. I'd go to places and I couldn't figure it out. And then I started asking the people that were good, because you'd go there and all the speakers kind of talk and hang out. And I'd watch the ones that always had all the people were in the back of the room, and I'd ask them questions. I'm like, what did I do wrong? I feel like I'm teaching the best stuff possible. And they're like, that's the problem. It's not about teaching, it's about telling stories and breaking beliefs. And so for the next about 2 years, I was about once a month flying somewhere to speak. And then when I would go there, I'd meet all the speakers and find out what they were doing. And I'd watch them and I'd take notes on the different things they were saying and how they were saying it. And then I kept taking my presentation and tweaking it. And now 12 years later, I've done it so many webinars, it kind of work.
Yeah.
The process works now.
You are a really good storyteller, and I've seen you do that, and I've seen you do it here. I know you're going to do even more. What I'm curious about is the belief system that you were saying, breaking people's, what was it that you said?
False beliefs.
Breaking people's false beliefs. How do you understand as you look at this audience, do you understand what some of our false beliefs are?
If I knew what I was selling, I could figure out for sure.
If you knew what you were selling. Yeah. All right, we're selling this belief that entrepreneurship does work, and I know that we're all going to go through a period like some of the ones that you had where things just aren't working. Other people aren't believing in us. It's almost failure. What's at that point the belief system that we have to work on? What do you recognize in people here?
So usually there's like 3 core beliefs that people have. The first is about like the opportunity itself, right? So like the entrepreneurship, like the first belief that people have is like, can I actually be an entrepreneur? And so some people who already believe that, they're like, I'm in, that's like an easy one. But for those who don't, there's a reason. And usually it's like, they saw a parent that tried to do it and the parent tried to be an entrepreneur and wasn't able to, and they saw that failure, or they tried in the past and they failed, or whatever it is. And so it's showing them that like, even if you tried in the past and show different ways, like let me tell you a story, like, and for me, I could show 800 different failures, but then it's like, but eventually you get better and you get better and you get better till eventually you have the thing that actually works. So I tell a story to kind of show that, to make them believe like, oh my gosh, maybe I just need to try a couple more times. And then the second level of belief is like beliefs about themselves, like, I sure it works for you, Russell or Andrew, but not for me because I'm different. It's helping them figure out their false beliefs. And if you can break that, then the third one is like, then they always want to blame somebody else. Like, oh, I could lose weight, but my wife buys lots of cupcakes and candy. So like, I could do it, but because of that I can't. So then it's like figuring out, well, how do you break the beliefs of like the external people that are going to keep them?
And how would you know what that is? How would you know who the external influencers are that your potential customers are worried about?
I think for most of us, it's because the thing that we're selling is something that one of our, Nick Bayerly said, our mess becomes our message. Like for most of us, what we're selling is the thing that we struggled with before. So I think back about me as 12-year-old Russell watching Don Lepre, like what would have kept me back? And I'd be like, I can't afford classified ads. Like if you show me like how I can, like if you can tell me a story of like, oh my gosh, I could afford classified ads, that belief's gone. And now I'm going to go give you money. And it's just kind of remembering back to the state where you were in when you were trying to figure this stuff out as well.
Who was it who I met when we were coming in here who said that they're part of Russell's mastermind? And I asked, how much did you pay? He said, I'm not telling you. I can't see who that person was, but I know you've got a mastermind, people coming in. I'm wondering how much of it comes from that, working with people directly, seeing them in the group share openly, and then saying, this is what my potential customers are feeling.
100%. At this point, especially, people always ask me, like, where do you go, Russell, to learn stuff? And it's my mastermind, because all the people come in and they're all in different industries, and you see that, you see the roadblocks that hold people back, but then they also share like the stuff that they're doing, and it's like, that's 100% now is where I get most of my intel. Because people ask me, like, why, you're the software company, why in the world do you have a mastermind group? And it's like, because the reason why our software is good is because we have this mastermind group where they're all crowdsourcing, they're doing all this stuff and bringing it back to us, and then we're able to make shifts and pivots based on that.
Somehow we just lost Apple, but that's okay.
It's back.
It's back, good. There we go. This is the next thing, Rippling, right?
I forgot I put that one in there.
I went back and I watched the YouTube video explaining it. It's a cartoon. I thought it was a professional voiceover artist. No, it's you. You're really comfortable getting on stage and talking. But basically in that video that you guys can see in the top left of your screen, it's Russell through this voiceover and cartoon explaining, look, you guys were around in the early days of Facebook. You told your friends. Here's how many friends you would have said. For the sake of numbers, let's say you told 7 people. Let's say they told 7 people, and that's how things spread. And the same thing happened with Pinterest and all these other sites. Don't you ever wish that instead of making them rich by telling stuff, you made yourself rich? Well, here's how Rippling comes in. And then you created it. And Rippling was what?
So Rippling was actually one of my friends' ideas, and he is a network marketing guy. So he's like, we're building a network marketing program, and I'd like dabbled in network marketing, never been involved in it, and he came and was like, hey, be part of this. And I was like, no. And they sold us on the whole pitch and the idea. And network marketers are really good at selling you on vision. And I was like, okay, that sounds awesome. And then my role was to write the pitch. And so I wrote the pitch, did the voiceover, did the video, and then we launched it. And we had, in 6 weeks, it was like 1.5 million people signed up for Rippling. And I thought it was like, this is the thing, I'm done. Like my downline was like half of the company. And I was like, when this thing goes live, like it's gonna be amazing. And then the tech side of it, what we were promising people in this video, that the main developer ended up dying, and he had all the code, so they had to restart building it in the middle of this thing, and like it was like thing after thing. And by the time it finally got done, everyone lost interest. It was like 8 months later, and like I think my biggest check I got was like $47 from the whole thing. And I was just like, I spent like 6 months of my life. It's like a penny a day. It's horrible.
I'm just wondering whether I should ask this or not.
Go for it.
So I stopped asking about religion, but I get this sense that you believe that like that there's a spiritual element here that keeps you from seeing my download is growing, the whole thing's working. Is any of this, does it feel divinely inspired to you? Be honest.
Business or?
Business, life, success, things working out so much so that when you're at your lowest, you feel like there's some divine guidance, some divine hand that says, Russell, it's going to work out. Russell, I don't know if I got you, but I know you got this. Go do it. I feel that from you.
Yeah, I 100% believe that.
You do?
Every bit of it. I believe that God gives us talents and gifts and abilities and then watches who we do with it. And if we do good, he increases our capacity to do more. If we do good with it, gives it more.
If you earn it. That if you do good, if you use what God gives you, then you get more. Yes. And so you think that is your duty to do that. And if you don't do more, if you don't pick yourself up after Ripplin, you've let down God. Do you believe that? Is that it? Or that you haven't lived up, you express it how.
Yeah, I don't think I feel like I let down God, but I definitely feel like I haven't lived up to my potential, But also I feel like a lot of stuff, like as I was putting together the document, all the pages, like it's interesting because like each one of them, looking in hindsight, like each built upon to the next thing and the next. And there's twice we tried to build ClickFunnels, and each one like was the next level, and each one's a stepping stone. Like Ripplin, if I wouldn't have done Ripplin, like that was my very first like viral video we ever created. I learned how to pitch things. And like when we did the ClickFunnels initial sales video, like because I had done this one, like I knew how to do this one, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's less of like I let down God as much as like. It's just like the piece, and it's like, what are you going to do with this? Are you going to do something with it? And then it doesn't mean it's going to be successful, but it means it's like, if you do well with this, then we're going to increase your capacity for the next step and the next thing. But we definitely, especially in time at the office, we talk about this a lot. Like we definitely feel what we do is a spiritual mission. Like it's,
you do
100%. Yeah. I don't think that it's just like, we're lucky. I think the way that the people have come, the partnerships, like how it was created is super inspired.
You know what? A lot of us are selling things that are software, PDF, guide, this, that. It's really hard to find the bigger mission in it. You're finding the bigger mission in funnels. What is that bigger mission? How do you connect with it? Because you're right. If you can find that bigger meaning, then the work becomes more meaningful, and the people you're working with become like, it's more exciting to work with and more meaningful to do it. How did you find it in funnels? What is the meaning?
So for us, and I'm thinking about some of my members in the inner circle, but so right now, as of I think today, we had 68,000 members in ClickFunnels, which is like the big number we all brag about. But for me, it's like that's 68,000 entrepreneurs. Each one has a gift, right? And so I think about one member I'll mention. His name's Chris Wark. He runs crispycancer.com. And Chris was someone who came down with cancer, given the death sentence, and instead of going through chemotherapy, decided I'm going to see if I can heal myself. And he did, cleared himself of cancer. And then instead of just like, cool, and then go back into work, he was like, man, I need to help other people. And so he started a blog, started doing some things. And now he's gotten this thing where he's helped thousands and thousands of people naturally cure themselves of cancer. And that's one of our 68,000 people, right?
See, you're focusing on him where I think a lot of us would focus on, here's one person who's just a smarmy marketer and here's who's creating, right? But you don't. That's not who you are. Look, I see you in your eyes. You're shaking your head. That's not it at all. It's not even a put on.
It's funny because for me, it's like, I get that, because I understand, because I get that all the time. People are like, oh, he's a slimy marketer. Like the first time people meet me all the time, first time they introduce, that's a lot of times the first impression, and they get closer and they feel the heart, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is, like, I had you wrong. I get that all the time from people.
Ryan and Brad, are either of them here? Ryan and Brad. Would one of you come up here? Yeah, come on up. Because they felt that way, right?
I don't know about them. Oh, I know. I don't even thinking about.
I think it's Theron.
It's Theron.
I guess it was Theron. Please.
Oh, is it the other?
No, stay up here as long as you're here. Theron, come on up. But
if it wasn't me, I'm going to sit back in the seat.
You're nervous?
How is there another Ryan and Brad?
No, it's a different story. It's a different story I had.
Okay. All right. So yeah.
Do you want to come up? Theron had no idea we were bringing him on stage.
Come on over here. Let's stand in the center so we can get you on camera. Does this help?
Want me to introduce Theron real quick?
Yeah, please.
So Theron is one of the Harmon brothers. They're the ones who did the viral video for us. I have no idea where you're going with this.
I heard that you felt that he was a scam. What was the situation, and how did you honestly feel?
I don't know that well...
Be honest, it's okay.
Oh, I know. I don't think that I felt that ClickFunnels itself was a scam, but that it just felt like that so many of the ways that the funnels were built and the types of language they were using, it was just not, it felt like it was that side of the internet, right? And so I became very, well, basically we were kind of in a desperate situation where we had a video that had not performed and not worked out the way we wanted it to work out.
The video that you created for Russell?
No, for another client.
Another
entirely.
client, okay.
And so our CEO had used ClickFunnels product to help drive, I think it was attendance to a big video event. Okay. And so he had some familiarity with the product. And so he goes to Russell, and at the same time, Russell's like, I'm a big fan of you guys, and he's coming to us, and these things are happening. Yeah, it was almost the same day. And so we're thinking like this, and we're like, well, they seem to really know how to drive traffic, to really know how to drive conversion. And we feel like we know how to drive conversion as well. But for some reason, we missed it on this one. And so we're like, well, let's do a deal.
When you say missed it, what do you okay, go
We were
ahead,
failing
go to
our
the deal.
client.
Okay.
We're failing our client. We weren't getting them an ROI.
Okay.
And so we said, let's do a deal with Russell, and we'll have our internal team compete with his team. Okay. And we're humble enough to say, hey, we're failing our client. We want our client to succeed. Let's bring in their team and see if they can make a funnel that can bring down the cost per acquisition, bring up the return on investment for our client. And they were able to do it, right? And then we said, well, what we'll do is we'll write a script. We'll take you through our script writing process, but we don't want to do the video because we don't want to be affiliated with it.
The contract said you can't tell anyone ever that Harmon Brothers wrote the script for you.
Wow. Because you didn't want to be associated with something that you thought was a little too scammy for it.
Yeah. We just didn't want our brand kind of brought down to their brand, which is super arrogant and really wrong-headed. And in any case, so we go into this script writing retreat, and I wasn't following his podcast. I wasn't listening to enough. I mean, read.com secrets, those kinds of things were like, wow, there's some really valuable stuff here. This is really interesting. And then as we got to know each other and really started to connect, like you said, heart to heart, and to feel what he's really about and the types of team, the people that he surrounds himself with, I was like, wow, these are really, really good people, and they have a mission here that they feel, and just like we feel that about our own group. And in any case, by the end of that 2-day retreat, we're like all off in private saying, well, first of all, we like what we've written. Second of all, we'd really like to work with these guys, and I think we're plenty happy being connected to them and associated with them. And so it's been a ride and a blessing ever since.
With them right now.
So what?
We're about to start video number 2.
Anyway, we love them.
All right. Give him a big round. Yeah. Thanks. This was pivotal for you guys. Lead Pages. This is an article about how Lead Pages raised $5 million. You saw that and you thought?
Well, what happened was Todd. So Todd's the co-founder of ClickFunnels, and he was working with us at the time. He would fly to Boise about once a quarter, and we work on the next project, new idea. And that morning he woke up and he saw that, and then he forwarded me the article. And he's Atlanta, so it's East Coast. So I'm still in bed, and then he's got a 4-hour flight to Boise, and he's just like getting angry because Todd's like a genius. Like he literally, when he landed in Boise and he saw me, he's like, we can build Lead Pages tonight. I will clone it. I will beat it. We can launch this week while we're here. Like he's that good of a developer. Like I've never seen someone code as fast and as good as him. Like he's amazing, right? And so he comes in, he's mad because he's like, this is the stupidest site in the world. We literally clone this. Let's just do it. And I'm like, yes, let's clone it. And we're all excited. And then he's like, do you want me to add any other features while I'm doing it? I'm like, oh, yes. We should do this, and we should do this. And then the scope creep from the marketer comes, and we end up spending an entire week in front of a whiteboard mapping out all my dreams. Like, if we could do this, and what if I had a shopping cart, and what if we could do upsells, and what if we could actually move things on the page instead of just having it sit there, and Todd's just taking notes and everything. And then he's like, hey, I think I can do this. And he told me, he's like, though, but if I do this, I don't want to do this as like as an employee. I want to do this as a partner. And at first I was like, because I've never wanted to do the partnership thing. And then the best decision I've ever made in my life outside of marrying my wife was saying yes to Todd. I said, let's do it. And then he flew home and built ClickFunnels.
Wow. And this is after trying software so much. I have screenshots of all the different, it's not even worth going into it, of all the different products you created. There was one about, it was digital repo, right? Digital
was a good
repo, man.
idea.
What was,
So I used to sell ebooks and
It's
stuff, and
this.
people would steal it and then email it to their friends, and I get angry.
can I read this? How to protect every type of low life and other form of human scum from cheating you from the profits you should be making by hijacking, stealing, and illegally prostituting ... your online digital products.
Theron, why did you think we were? Just kidding. So no, it was a really cool product that would like you take an ebook and it would like protect it, and then if somebody like gave it to their friend, you could push a button, it would like take back access. And it was like the coolest thing in the world, we thought.
And there was software that was going to attach your ad to any other software that was out there. There was software that was going to, what are some of the other ones? It's going to hit me later on. But we're talking about a dozen different pieces of software, a dozen different attempts of software. What's the one? I thought somebody remembered one of them. It just the kinds of stuff you'd never think of. There was one that was kind of like ClickFunnels, an early version of ClickFunnels for landing pages. Why did you want to get into software when you were teaching, creating membership sites? What was software? What was it that was drawing you in?
I think, honestly, when I first learned this internet marketing game, the first mentor I had, the first person I saw was a guy named Armin Morin. And Armin had all these little software products like e-cover generator, sales letter generator, everything generator. And so that's what I kept seeing. I was like, I need to create software because he made software. And in fact, I even shifted my major from, I can't remember what it was before, to computer information systems. I was like, I don't know how to code because I couldn't afford programmers. And then, and that's kind of just what I'd seen. And then I was trying to think of ideas for software. And every time I would get stuck, instead of trying to like find something to do, I was like, let me hire a guy to go build that, and then I can sell it to somebody else as well. And that's kind of how it started.
And it was a lot of different tools, a lot of different attempts. And then this one was the one that you went with. I think this is an early version of the homepage, basically saying coming soon, sign up. The first one didn't work out. And then you saw someone else on a forum who had a version that was better. What was his name? This is, I think, Dylan
you're talking
Jones.
about the editor. Yes. Okay. So the story was, Todd built the first version of ClickFunnels, and Dylan, who became one of our co-founders, I'd been working with Dylan as a designer for about 6 years prior. And he is and we talked about this earlier, he's the best designer I've ever seen in my life. He is amazing. But he's also, this is the pros and cons of Dylan. Like I've talked about this on stage at Funnel Hacking Live, so I have no problem saying this, and he would agree. But I'd give him a project, and he wouldn't respond back to me. I wouldn't hear from him for 2 or 3 months. And then one day in the middle of the night, he messaged me. He's like, hey, rent's due tomorrow. You have any projects for me? And I'd be so mad at him. And I look back at every project we've done the last 3 or 4 months that other designers had done, and I would just like resend them all the lists, like boom, give them 12 sites. And I go to bed. I wake up 5 or 6 hours later, and all of them were done perfectly amazing, like some of the best designs ever. And then he'd send me a bill for whatever, and I'd send him money, and he'd disappear again for like 5 months. And I could never get a hold of him. And then like, I need you to tweak something. He was just gone. And that was like my pattern for 6 years with him. And then fast forward to when Todd and I were building ClickFunnels. We were at Traffic Conversion, and we were up in the hotel room at like 3 a.m. we were on dribble.com trying to find a UI designer to help us. And we couldn't get a hold of all these people. And all of a sudden on Skype, Dylan popped in. I saw this thing pop up. I was like, Todd, Dylan just showed up. He was like, do you need some money? I'm like, I guarantee he needs money. So I'm like, hey man. And Dylan messaged back. He's like, hey, I'm like, do you need some money? He's like, yeah, you got any projects? I'm like, yes, I do. I'm like, we built this cool thing. It's called ClickFunnels, but the UI is horrible and the editor's horrible. And there's any way we can hire you for a week to fly to Boise and just do all the UI for every single page of the app. And he kind of said no at first because like I'm developing my own website builder. I'm going to spend like 6 years on it, so I can't do it.
What was this? He had something that was essentially ClickFunnels, right?
Yeah. It was just pages though, so we just do pages. There's no funnels.
Closer to lead pages.
Lead pages, but amazing. You can move things around. But he didn't tell me that. He just said, I'm working on something. So eventually we got him to come. He flew to Boise, spent a week, did all of our UI, and then we went and we launched our beta to my list. So we launched the beta, we got some signups, and then like a week before the launch was supposed to happen, all the affiliates were lined up, everything was supposed to happen. He sends me I don't know if he sent you the video, but he sends me this little video that's like a 30-second video of him demoing his editor he built. And I probably watched that video, I don't know, at least 100 times, and I was just sick to my stomach because I was like, I hate ClickFunnels right now. I can't move things on my pages, I can't do anything. And I sent it to Todd, and then I hear from him for like an hour, and he messaged him back, he's like, I'm pissed. I'm like, me too. And then they're like, what do we do? And I was like, we have to have his editor. I don't even want to sell this thing. And And I called Dylan. I'm like, would you be willing to sell? And he's like, no, I'm selling it, and we're gonna sell for $100. And it was like $100 one time for this editor that designed all the websites. And I was like, dude, it is worth so much more than that, please. And we spent all night going back and forth negotiating. And finally, it came down to like, I will give you this editor if I can be a co-founder and be a partner. And Todd and I sat there and brainstorming and figured out if we could do it. And finally said yes. And then him and Dylan and Todd flew back to Boise, and for the next week just sat in a room with a whole bunch of caffeine and figured out how to smush Dylan's editor into ClickFunnels to get the editor to be the editor that you guys know today.
You know what? I did see, I don't know if, I didn't see the video you mentioned, but I did see what it looked like. Here's one of the first versions. He compared it to ClickFunnels. He said, to Lead Pages. He said, look at how Lead Pages has their stuff all the way on the left, and it's just moving the main content to the right, which is not looking right. And he said, prefer something that looks like this with 100 pixels on the left, 100 pixels. I go, who knows 100 pixels? Like what is this?
Dylan's obsessed with that kind of stuff. He's amazing.
Obsessed. And you draw people like that. You draw people like Dave, who's just phenomenal. Dave, the traffic and conversion event that he was just talking about, is that the one that you went to? The one after that. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second then. So this became your next version. You brought on a new partner, and then you did a webinar with this guy. Who's this guy?
It's Mike Filson, one of my first friends online. It actually wasn't a webinar. It was a live event. He was doing a live event in San Diego, and he's like, you have to come and sell ClickFunnels. And I was like, nobody's buying ClickFunnels. We have a free trial, and like, we couldn't give it away. Like, it was crazy. And he's like, well, you're on this website. Like, your picture's there. You have to come sell ClickFunnels. And I need you to sell it for at least $1,000 because the way it works, if you speak someone's event and you sell something, you split the money 50-50. So like, it needs to be at least $1,000. And I was like all bummed out. I didn't want to do it. And the event actually started, but they were streaming it live online. So I was sitting in our office in Boise watching it as I'm like putting together my slides to create ClickFunnels. And then flew out to the event. We had a booth. I don't know if I told you this. We had a booth, and Lead Pages had a booth right across like a little hallway, skinny hallway. And Todd's wife was manning our booth, and then Lead Pages was right there. It was so funny because she was like not shy at all about talking about Lead Pages. She's like, "Yeah, we're like Lead Pages, except for we're way better. We can do this and this." And the other guy's sitting there like right in front of her. She's telling them everything, and it was anyway. I digress. It was pretty funny.
But by the way, she's still at it. I saw a video that you guys created. You were talking to her, and she goes, I will be ClickFunnels. I go, wait a minute, you still have that fire, okay? So you were at that event?
So we had the event, and there's probably, I can't remember, 150, 200 people maybe in the room. And so I got the slides up, and Dylan was there, and he was like, we got the funnels, he was gonna demo the editor. And so I did the whole thing. I showed the presentation, we demoed ClickFunnels, we did the thing, and at the end of it, I sold. And I've been good on stage, but by far, that was the first time in probably 8 years I'd seen a table rush where people are like stepping over the things, jumping around, trying to get to the back to buy as fast as they could.
What did you say to get them to want to do that?
We made we gave the presentation and gave a really good offer. They get a year of ClickFunnels for free, plus they would get training, plus they would get all these other things for $1,000.
It was like $1,000 training and a year ClickFunnels for free, and then they become long-term members. And it was also like called funnel hackers?
Funnel hacks, yeah.
Funnel hacks. And that's the thing that became like
the culture.
This culture, this tribe. It wasn't just that they were signing to learn from you. They were becoming funnel hackers. That's it.
I mean, that wasn't planned though. It was like, I was trying to think of a sexy name for the presentation. So I'm like, funnel hacks. And somebody owned funnelhacks.com. I'm like, I'm still doing the presentation that way. And then later we made a t-shirt that said funnel hackers. And then like, now we got like 4 or 5 people have tattooed that to their bodies. It's really weird. Anyway, but yeah, that's what happened. So we did that, we sold it. And I remember going to dinner night with the guys who were there and Todd and his wife and everything. And we're all excited because we made some money finally, but I was just like, you guys don't understand, like I've spoken on a lot of stages. I haven't seen a table rush like that. I was like, and I remembered back, there was a guy, he passed away a couple years ago. His name was Fred Katona, and he was a radio guy. He was the guy who did the radio commercials for Priceline radio commercials and made that guy a billionaire. And he told me when we were in the radio ad, he said, this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna test your ad, and if it works, I'm gonna call you on the phone, I'm gonna let you know you're rich. Because if it works, it like means you're gonna be rich. And so I remember going to dinner night, and I told the guy, I said, just so you guys know, like we're rich. Like, what do you mean? And, like we made $150,000. I'm like, no. Like the way people respond to that, I've never seen that in my life. Like we're rich. Like that would like the response rate from that I've never seen.
And then you went to webinar after webinar after webinar.
On the flight home that day, I'm texting everybody I've ever met. I got a hot offer. This webinar crushed it. We just closed whatever percent of the room at Phil Sam's event. Who wants to do it? And we started filling up a calendar.
And the idea was, and you told me you did 2 to 3 at some days. And the idea was they would sell somebody on a course, and then their members would then hear how your software and your funnel hacking technique would help up what they just bought. And then they would sign up. You're still excited. I could see it in your face. And then this thing took off. And then you started doing an event for your culture, community. And this guy spoke, Tony Robbins,
Oh yeah, there's Tony.
one of the first ones.